Muted.
Crystal Myers, and I'm with the California Department of Food and Agriculture, the Office of Grants Administration. And this is going to give you an overview of the grant solicitation process for this year's 2017 State Water Efficiency Enhancement Program. We're going to walk you through the grant solicitation and some program requirements, and then also do a live demonstration of how to apply. It is an online submission process, so make sure you are familiar with the online submission, online application, and how to create an account. So I'll be covering the first part of the presentation, and then Scott Weeks is also here with us from the Department's Office of Environmental Farming and Innovations and Environmental Scientists. He's going to go over some of the technical aspects and requirements of the program, like the water savings assessment tool calculator and the greenhouse gas emissions calculator. So we will be asking you to submit your questions. There's a questions box on the right-hand side of the screen. However, we are going to hold off on answering any questions till the conclusion of the presentation. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So the purpose of the State Water Efficiency Enhancement Program, it is a highly competitive grant application process. It is conducted by our department. We do receive the funding through the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund Program, or also known as the California Climate Investment Program. The purpose of this program is to provide financial assistance for California ag operations to invest in irrigation systems that are going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save water. That's an important requirement of this program. It's the primary purpose, so all projects that are submitted through this application process must reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save water. Historically, for every round, CDFA has received approximately 250 to 300 applications, and a little over 50% of those have been awarded on every round. So this will be the 6th round of funding since the 2014 and the inception of the program. So how the funding works. SWEET funding is authorized by the Budget Act of 2016 and Assembly Bill 1613. We do expect up to $4.5 million to be available for the 2017 SWEEP round. Again, the department is appropriated Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund Program. The California Air Resource Board is the lead agency on this, hence why we have to ensure every project has greenhouse gas emission reduction. So we receive the funding, and the department operates as a pass-through entity. So once we receive your applications, and then for those that are selected, we do make grant agreements and awards to individual grant recipients. So for the 2017 SWEEP program, projects cannot exceed $100,000. So we don't have a minimum threshold at this point for any project. We have awarded projects that are $7,000 or $10,000. So no minimum amount threshold. However, one application cannot exceed $100,000 per project. So the project duration for every project cannot exceed 12 months. So projects cannot begin prior to June 1st of 2017 and must be completed and implemented on or before May 31st of 2018. So that 12-month period, you can have a project that's 4 months or 6 months or even 8 months, as long as it's between June 1st of 2017 and May 31st of 2018. This is a few of the eligibility and exclusions. This is just a summary. We do encourage all potential applicants to read the request for grant applications, which is posted on our Department of Food and Agriculture, the SWEEP website. We will be showing you a live demonstration of where to access all that materials following the presentation. So I want to make sure you guys get familiar with all the program requirements. So we're going over a few of them today. So one main eligibility is the installation must be on a California agricultural operation. And for the purpose of this program, an ag operation is defined as a row, vineyard, fill, and tree crops, commercial nurseries, nursery stock production, and greenhouse operation. So again, I want to emphasize that every project must reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save water. Another important aspect of this program is supporting documentation must be related to the on-farm water and energy use that must be provided in order to be eligible for funding. Just a few exclusions with this program, and want to point out that academic institution and governmental organizations are not eligible. Only individual ag operations are eligible to receive funding under the 2017 SWEEP program. Also, for those who are familiar with USDA NRCS EQIP funding, SWEEP funding cannot be combined with this program. So we do still encourage you to apply for both programs if that is something that you choose and are eligible for. However, should you receive funding from or selected for us as well as USDA NRCS for the same project in APN, we would ask that you let us know and accept one of the funding opportunities. So again, you could apply for USDA NRCS EQIP funding, may receive funding for that, but it must be a different project for SWEEP and vice versa. This is just a general visual of kind of our solicitation process. It's about a 5-month process. So CDFA starts soliciting grant applications, and by the deadline of March 14th, 2017 at 5 p.m., applications are submitted to us. We undergo a review. There's 2 levels of review, an administrative review and a technical review. All applicants will be notified regarding the status of their applications, concluding the review process. And for those that are unsuccessful in this process, CDFA will provide feedback on the application within 60 days of receiving the notification. For those that are successful, all applicants will be notified and indicated they are selected for funding, and that will begin the initiation of our grant agreement process. Once the grant agreement is in place, that's where your project implementation can begin. So a little more information on the review and evaluation process. Again, there's multiple levels of reviews that will be conducted during the grant application process. The first level of review is the administrative review and is an internal review which is conducted by the department. This is to determine whether application requirements are met, basic eligibility, application completeness. Then those that pass the administrative review are then passed on to the technical reviewers. This is an external review that is conducted by irrigation water system experts affiliated with the University of California and California State University system. CDFA will select applications for funding based on the following criteria. One is the score that is assigned by the technical reviewers, the level of greenhouse gas reduction and water savings per acre, and then there are a few additional considerations in which CDFA takes into consideration, and we'll go over that a little bit later. Again, I wanted to point out there is no minimum threshold for the level of greenhouse gas savings or water savings per project, but applications will be ranked in with those considerations. This is our solicitation timeline. CDFA began accepting applications February 1st. This concludes our workshops and webinars for this week. CDFA held 3 workshops throughout the state, first one starting in Fresno, San Diego, and then Red Bluff. This is the only webinar that we will be conducting for this solicitation. And so all materials from the workshop and this webinar, the presentation, will be posted on our website later this afternoon. So grant applications are due no later than March 14th, 2017 at 5 p.m. I cannot stress this enough because CDFA is unable to accept late applications. So we do encourage you to start the application process early. Concluding the application submissions, we undergo those review processes, and we expect to announce and award funding in mid-May of 2017. A few program requirements. It is important to use the actual business name of your operation in your grant application, as this is the name that will be used on your grant agreement. So only one application using an operation's legal business name and unique tax ID can be submitted. So one application per unique tax ID. The application that you're submitting for 2017 cannot build upon any previously funded SWEEP project affecting the same assessor parcel numbers. So for those who have received SWEEP funding in the past, we do still encourage you to apply for a new project on a new APN. Also, all projects must include flow meters or demonstrate how actual water will be measured with the existing flow meters or by the water supplier. Additional program requirements. Since the funding is from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund program, and ARB, Air Resource Board, is the lead agency, they have created a quantification methodology and a greenhouse gas calculator tool. This tool must be used for submission of the grant application. The tool that is to assist applicants with determining their greenhouse gas emission reduction from estimated on-farm energy savings as a result of their project implementation. So CDFA environmental scientists will go over this calculator tool following the presentation and do a live demonstration of what the calculator tool looks like and how to complete the tool, which is also available to access on CDFA's website. Additional program requirements. SWEEP grant funds cannot be used for expanding existing agricultural operations, new farmland, new acreage cannot be converted to the farmland. SWEEP funding cannot be used for installation of new groundwater wells or increasing well depth. And again, testing new technology or performing research. Again, this is not a research program, therefore academic institutions are not eligible to apply. A few post-project program requirements. If applicants are selected for an award under this program, they must agree to program requirements that are listed on this slide. There is more information on the award requirements on the request for grant applications on page 12 and 13. A few that we want to point out are the pre-project consultations. This will be done before execution of a grant agreement. So the purpose of the pre-consultation is to confirm project site information and to discuss implementation plans. So following the selection of award notice, a representative from CDFA's Office of Environmental Farming will reach out to you to conduct a pre-project consultation. These generally take about 15 minutes over the phone, not on site, and then we can move forward with the process. An additional requirement that we're asking everybody to agree to, should you receive funding, is a project verification. This will also be conducted by a CDFA environmental scientist or most often a local resource conservation district. The project verification is to evaluate the project site and quantify GHG reductions and the water savings. This will be done concluding your project on no later than May 31st, 2018. Also, I'd like to point out that CDFA does withhold 10% of the grant award until this verification has been conducted. All projects that are related to water and energy use records must be available to CDFA upon request for a minimum of 3 years following project implementation. Again, there's also an expectation to use and maintain the system for a minimum of 10 years. So for additional award requirements, please refer to page 12 and 13 of the request for grant application. The budget worksheet requirement. A budget worksheet is one of the required attachments that must be submitted with your grant application. The 2017 budget worksheet must be complete, and applicants must attach the budget worksheet template to their application. We are asking that you use the required template. Even though it may look similar to previous rounds, we are asking that you use the one associated with this 2017 SWEEP solicitation. There have been some changes. One to point out is the maximum grant award is $100,000, no longer $200,000. On the budget worksheet, applicant organizations and the project identification number are to be included at the top. The total grant funds, this is the amount that SWEEP grant fund applicants are requesting to cover the project cost. The total will automatically calculate once you input all of the budget category information, supplies, equipment, labor, and other costs. There is a section for total matching funds. This also will automatically calculate the total cash and in-kind contributions that applicants will contribute to the project. So the total grant funds plus any matching funds that you are going to indicate on your project totals the total project cost. I would like to let everybody know at this time that matching funds is not a requirement of this program. It is encouraged, however, it is not required. We have funded projects that didn't have any matching funds, However, many projects will cost more than $100,000, so therefore matching funds is encouraged. We are asking applicants, it's very important to provide a clear breakdown of all the project costs in their budget worksheet. For supplies and equipment, an itemized and estimated cost, providing by a brief description and a quantity to be purchased. For labor cost, we ask that you enter a brief description of the services and or the cost an hour for installation. I would like to point out at this time that labor costs cannot exceed 25% of the total grant requested, and anything in excess of that 25% should be included in the matching funds column. This slide gives you a brief description of how those budget costs are being defined. Supplies costs are an itemized acquisition cost that are equal or less than $5,000 per unit. Equipment is an article of non-expendable tangible personal property which equals or exceeds $5,000 per unit. So think of major equipment. There is an other cost category, and this is where we ask that you itemize the estimated cost for any other allowable costs that are not covered in the previous categories that are necessary for project implementation. Some examples of this are those permits, monthly or annual service charges, and also sales tax. Here's a few allowable costs that we would like to go over. There is a list in the request for grant applications on page 8, which we would encourage you to review. So allowable costs include installation of photovoltaic panels to power an irrigation system, any components of a micro irrigation system, sensor hardware, or software associated with sensors, weather stations, and again, of course, every project must have flow meters. The list of unallowable costs, this includes but is not limited to and is also identified on page 8 of the request for grant application. Project design costs or costs associated with engineering, any costs associated with the technical assistance, post-project service charges and maintenance costs, and then any non-labor costs such as management or fees associated with the project oversight. Again, labor costs in excess of 25% of the total SWEEP grant request will have to be included as match. Any supplies or equipment costs that are not directly related to the irrigation or water distribution systems, and costs associated with drilling of new or expanding groundwater wells. There were a few additional considerations which were mentioned which I discussed previously, but a couple of those include irrigation training courses. This is not a requirement, but we are asking if you've already attended an irrigation training course within the last 2 years and or plan to, that you indicate that in your application, and that will be taken in consideration during the award process. However, these costs are not reimbursable under the SWEEP grant program. Any soil management practices, again, we'll go over that in a little bit later. If you are currently doing any of those, then again, we encourage you to select that. It will be considered during the award process. However, we cannot reimburse for these costs under the grant program. And then a pump efficiency test is a requirement of this program. All projects must include a pump efficiency test, as the input for that is going to be needed to complete the calculator tools. Again, this is a requirement, but CDFA SWEEP funds cannot be reimbursed for that section.
Hello, everyone. This is Scott Weeks with the Office of Environmental Farming and Innovation. I'm going to go over a section of this, some of the project types. All right, your project type. Something to keep in mind is we need both water conservation and greenhouse gas reduction. I know Chris went over that earlier. So some of your practices that involve water conservation might be using a soil moisture or plant sensor, using an evapotranspiration station, and of course a flow meter. Also the installation of a micro-irrigation or a drip system, and you can find more information on this following some of the NRCS conservation practice standards. Also, greenhouse gas reduction. Some examples of this are undergoing fuel conservation. You could potentially be switching from a diesel pump to an electric pump, putting in a solar system, various things like that, improving your energy efficiency. So retrofitting or replacing an old and faulty pump, or also installing a low pressure system, so micro irrigation system. All right. Also, some examples are variable frequency drive. Installing a variable frequency drive has been shown to reduce the total greenhouse gas emissions produced on a farm. And then also reducing your overall pumping. Reducing your overall pumping can be achieved by putting in soil moisture gauges or evapotranspiration stations, feedback loops that will allow yourself to have an automated irrigation system. And also there's some other management practices that can be involved in lowering your greenhouse gas production. Go ahead and try and justify that in your greenhouse gas section of the FAAST applications. This is something we'll be going over in a moment. So, how do you apply for SWEEP? First and foremost, you're going to want to create a FAAST account. So you're going to want to log into the FAAST at the waterboards.pa.gov webpage. This is hosted by our partners at the State Water Resources Board, Control Board, and it is essentially an online portal for submitting the necessary information that we need in order to complete this application. Okay, so this is some of the information that's within FAAST. You're going to need to fill out the General Information tab. This involves your applicant organization. So here we need your legal business name. And also your submitting organization. This is if there's an operation that's submitting on behalf of that legal business agricultural operation. We are going to need a description of your overall project as well as your project title. Now, I do want to stress something in that for this project description, we're not looking for something that's overly flowery language. We want something that's very straightforward, a clear and concise description of what your project entails. And within FAAST, again, there's a budget tab. This is where you're going to input that information that's within the budget worksheet. We're going to want to know the total amount of funds that are requested. Keep in mind that the maximum amount of funds that can be requested from CDFA through the SWEEP program is $100,000 this cycle. We also want an indication of your local cost match, and of course those two come together, create your total budget. And so we'll need to put that into the FAAST application as well. All right, so there's a larger section within this FAAST application. It's kind of the meat and potatoes of this section, which is the questionnaire tab. This is where you're going to indicate whether or not you've had a previously funded project, information about your property, your current irrigation system practices, project type, the duration of your project, proposed irrigation systems and practices, and then the water calculations and the greenhouse gas calculations. This is calculators that I'll go into in more depth later on in this presentation, as well as any additional considerations. I will go into more depth on each one of these bullet points in just a moment. So within the questionnaire tab, there's that previously funded SWEEP projects. Here we need to know if you've received a SWEEP funding before, and we're going to want to know the SWEEP project identification name, and as well as the total amount of money that was received, and the assessor parcel numbers that are affiliated with that project. One thing to keep in mind is you're not allowed to receive SWEEP funding for that same APN as you could have, or, that you've received from a prior operation. So keep that in mind, please. We do encourage you to apply for different APNs as well, though. So we're going to need to know a bit about your property information. You must clearly identify the parcels that are involved in the proposed project and the current land use. So we're going to want to know the APN. We're going to want to know the address or the nearest cross street. Now I know that some agricultural operations don't necessarily have an address. They don't have a house on there. So we're looking for something like the cross street, maybe a half mile up the road from this street, north direction. Some way we can find your agricultural operation. We'll also need the city and zip code, the county, and the census tract. Of course, we're going to need the crop type that you're using, and the acreage. Keep in mind the census tract is available. There's a link within the FAAST application when you're filling that out that will help you find that information. So you're also going to need to indicate whether water used for irrigation is from surface water supplies or groundwater pumping, or if it's both. So we're going to want to know a little bit about your current irrigation system and practices. This is for what you currently have on your system. So if you have flood irrigation, you're interested in putting in micro irrigation, we're going to want to know about the flood irrigation system in this section of the FAAST application. So we want you to describe in detail the current crop, acreage, irrigation type, and irrigation management practices, as well as the energy source that's involved in that. And then there's a section on project types. This is a yes and no section, well, where you will select if you are interested in installing. If there's various sections, but as an example, if you're putting in a micro irrigation system from a flood irrigation system, you're going to want to say yes, I intend to install this in the water management tab. Now, keep in mind that if you already have a micro irrigation system, you're going to want to say no to this question because this is not involved in the project type that you're requesting the funds for. And also, you must keep in mind that projects must achieve greenhouse gas reduction and water savings to be eligible for SWEEP. So that's both greenhouse gases and water savings. There's also an explanation box at the bottom of that project type. We encourage you to elaborate on what exactly you're answering yes to. Project duration. This is where you're going to indicate how long your project is anticipated to take. For example, if you're only installing maybe a soil moisture gauge and an evapotranspiration station and a flow meter, that might not take as long as the installation of a solar system. So there's an indication with a calendar on it that will allow you to select the project duration, which is from June 1st, 2017, and then May 31st, 2018. So that's the maximum length of your project duration. You might not need that, like I said, for if you're installing just soil moisture probes, something like that. This is the part where you're going to go into what you're proposing. This is the proposed irrigation system and practices. So, like I said prior, if you have flood, but you're interested in putting in micro irrigation, this is where you go in and elaborate about the micro irrigation system that you're proposing to install. We're going to want to know that you describe this in detail on the proposed crop, acreage, irrigation type, and management level, as well as the energy source that's indicated with this project. And then also indicate how water will be measured after the project implementation. We need project measurement. So that's why flow meters are a very important part. Okay, so we're going to need some information on the water calculation. This will make a little bit more sense when I open up the water calculator, but essentially we have a water calculator that allows you to calculate the baseline water use and then the estimated water savings that are affiliated with the project type that you're interested in pursuing. And this information will need to be submitted within the FAAST questionnaire. This is also true for the greenhouse gas calculation. We have an air resources board greenhouse gas calculator for SWEEP, and you'll need to use that calculator, quantify the greenhouse gas savings, the projected greenhouse gas savings, and then input that directly into the FAAST application. And then the questions regarding greenhouse gas calculations revolve and establish baseline and the baseline of energy use and estimated reductions resulting from the project. We also have an additional considerations tab, a section within this questionnaire tab. This is in the FAAST application again. During this you're going to want to select processes, as well as attach your irrigation training. And if you're interested in attending an irrigation training course, this is where you would select that I'm going to be taking an irrigation training course. And if you have in the last 2 years, you can attach that document to your FAAST application. Also, the reduction of groundwater pumping in a critically overdrafted groundwater basin. That information can also be found on the FAAST application. If there's any sort of soil management practices that are affiliated with the project, for instance, you're going to be applying compost. Now, the SWEEP funds won't pay for that, but it's a good additional consideration if you're going to be doing cover cropping or mulching potentially. Also, your commitment to matching funds is a good piece of additional consideration, as well as if you're a brand new SWEEP applicant. Okay, so within the FAAST application, there's an attachment tab. And it's very important that we have the correct attachment included in the attachment tab of the FAAST application. So we're going to need your budget worksheet, a project design, your SWEEP irrigation water savings assessment tool, the ARB greenhouse gas calculator tool, the greenhouse gas supporting documentation, any commitment to matching funds, and then also that irrigation training course. So break this down a little bit. You're going to need the budget worksheet, the project design, completed SWEEP irrigation water savings assessment tool again, completed ARB greenhouse gas calculator tool, the greenhouse gas emission documentation. Now, for this, the supporting documentation for the ARB greenhouse gas calculator. So we're going to need your baseline energy documentation, as well as your pump efficiency test, as well as your pump specification. So you're actually unable to submit an application into FAAST unless you have at least 5 documents and are uploading that are uploaded in the attachment tab. And Kyle's going to go into FAAST a little bit later, and that might make more sense when we get to it. Of course, that required attachment, you need that budget worksheet. This is an itemized section that has all allowable costs related to the project. And it must be consistent with the project design. So we need to make sure that your project design, if it indicates that you're putting in 10 soil moisture gauges, that your budget indicates that there are 10 soil moisture gauges within that budget. So we use the USDA NRCS equipped payment schedule guide to the extent it's feasible to determine what is considered a reasonable cost. And if you see Appendix E in the request for grant application, you'll see a payment schedule for that. So project design. Project design is a critical piece of information that needs to be submitted with the overall grant application in FAAST. So we're going to want to know any type of new infrastructure that's going to be going in, such as new irrigation piping, sensors, detailed schematic of locations of the infrastructure that's going to be installed in the field. Now, if you're going to be improving an existing infrastructure, retrofitting a pump, for example, we're going to want to know where that pump is on a project design. We're going to need to identify any pertinent agronomic information, such as water distribution, uniformity, and the type of irrigation system that you're going to have. For the use of ET-based irrigation scheduling, shows that the water deliveries can be made on a consistent basis to accommodate that scheduling. Projects that include the installation of a renewable energy, such as a photovoltaic panels, also known as solar panels, must include the location, engineering, and energy output specifications of this proposed installation. We need to know that information for the greenhouse gas calculator, so important. So here's a snapshot of the SWEEP irrigation water assessment and savings tool. I'm going to be opening this up in a moment to walk you all through this. It'll make a little bit more sense when we get to it. But essentially, there is an introduction tab before your agricultural operation. So it's basically what your current operation is, the method that they're using. Then an after tab, this is what you're proposing to change, as well as the water savings estimate section. That's the information that we need to put into FAAST, and we also need to take some of that information and put it into the ARB calculator. So the ARB greenhouse gas calculator tool, we must follow the ARB's greenhouse gas quantification methodology, which includes the use of that calculator to estimate the greenhouse gas reductions that are affiliated with your project. And you need to include a copy of that greenhouse gas calculator tool within your submission. It's on the attachments tab. And then an explanation of the input that you use in the calculator, and then that greenhouse gas supporting documentation, which is the pump test, the pump specification, and the energy record. You can find that information on the link. It's also on our webpage, and I'll point you to that when we get to that section. So we need that greenhouse gas emissions documentation. That's how we establish your actual baseline greenhouse gas emissions that you have done previously. So we must cover at least 6 months of that prior peak irrigation growing season for your energy record. And you need a pump efficiency test, as well as the information on the pump and motor specifications, so how many horsepower it is, for example. And here's a tip for you: if projects involve project crop rotation, up to 3 years of supporting documentation may be provided to substantiate and represent the baseline for energy use for pumping. Yeah, and we are putting on some technical assistance workshops throughout the state. We have contracted with various entities, including the RCDs and UCs and nonprofit organizations, in order to put on these technical assistance workshops. So there is a list that's going on the SWEEP webpage later today, and we'll have a press release as well that will make that information a little bit more clear. But I would very much encourage individuals to go and attend these workshops. And here's a rough list of where they are. This is only city specific. I haven't received all the address locations at this point, so I will be updating this information soon. But this is, the ones that were in the Northern California, Central California, and Southern California as well. So hopefully you'll be able to find one that's in your area. I would definitely recommend attending one of these workshops.
Okay, so this is Crystal again. I just wanted to go over a few friendly reminders. All of this information is outlined for grounds for disqualification on page 11, at the bottom of page 11, and on 12 of the request for grant applications. But every round, unfortunately, we've had to disqualify some applications, and these are some of the common reasons why. So wanted to make sure you guys were aware of this and can be cognizant of this when you're submitting your application. One is applications from individuals or organizations that don't meet the definition of an ag operation. Also, we receive applications that do not identify a unique tax ID. So again, one application per unique tax ID. Applications that include APNs from a previously funded SWEEP project. As I stated earlier, we cannot accept any applications that are for the same APNs on our previously funded SWEEP project. So if you were previously funded in SWEEP, please submit a new project on a new APN. Also, some of the another common pitfall is the incomplete grant applications. Oftentimes applications are submitted with one or more unanswered questions, and then applications include missing, blank, unreadable, corrupt, or otherwise unusable attachments. So without a complete application, your application would be disqualified. Another common issue is applications that are submitted requesting more than the maximum grant amount. So as Scott covered, there is a project budget tab within the FAAST system that we ask that you indicate the amount of SWEEP funding under the grant request. So if that amount does not match the budget worksheet, we will use the budget worksheet amount. So they should match, but just want to keep in mind the FAAST budget tab does not prohibit you from adding more than the $100,000. So please be careful of that and only request no more than the $100,000 for this round of funding. Also, then applications not meeting the supporting documentation requirement. It's very important to include all of the required attachments, answer all questions in the format which you'll see in the FAAST demonstration later. So just wanted to give you guys a few friendly reminders about this before as you start developing your application. Again, another reminder is CDFA will be posting any questions that we received during the workshops, and also questions that we received today during the webinar will be posted according to our frequently asked questions schedule. So we have a schedule that's outlined on page 11 of the request for grant applications. So any questions received by February 10th at 8 a.m. will be posted by close of business at 5 p.m. on February 15th, 2017. And then the second round of questions, we'll be getting any questions received by February 24th at 8 a.m. will be posted by March 1st at 5 p.m. Again, the schedule is outlined on page 11 of the request for grant applications, and all questions should be emailed to us at grants@cdfa.ca.gov. And this is to maintain the integrity of a competitive process. CDFA is not able to answer questions over the phone or one-on-one. We want to make sure all questions that are submitted, everybody gets the same information and the responses are provided to everybody. So that is the purpose of doing the schedule. So no questions will be received outside of the FAQ process. So wanted to make sure you get your questions in by that schedule. And now we're going to go ahead and accept any questions and go through. We will, again, be posting these following by February 15th. So we're going to take a few minutes and answer just a couple of questions since we have some time before we go into the FAAST live demonstration. So if you're staying online for the FAAST live demo, please hang on. We'll get there in a few minutes.
Muted.
All right, everyone. How you doing? Let's get to this. So this is the Irrigation Water Savings Assessment Tool. This is a bit of a refinement from the last couple of rounds. So any of you that have applied for SWEEP before, you'll see a little bit of a change. I have to say I think it's much, much better than it used to be. Much clearer, and we have that before and that after scenario, as well as this instruction tab. So first and foremost, when you get this when you download this calculator, please read through this background information and the instructions tab. This will help clarify on what some of the definitions are for pieces of information that we're going to be asking for within the calculator. So let me show you how this works. So we're going to want that this is the before tab. This is how your agricultural operation is currently managed. And within this, we're going to want to know the applicant, the FAAST PIN number. This is a number that is generated when you create a FAAST account. So keep that in mind. Generate that FAAST account first, and then put in this PIN number into this calculator. And then we want to know the field name or ranch, the date, and the impacted acres affiliated with this calculator. So a couple of things we need to know. What kind of soil do you guys have? What's your crop type? And then what is your baseline township and range? If you don't know your baseline township and range, there is a link in the instructions tab which will help you find that information. So let's just say we are in Sandy Loam and we like almonds. Okay? We're currently an almond operation, and we're doing surface irrigation under optimal conditions. We have a line ditch, there's a tailwater recovery system, we have great distribution uniformity. So this is an example of what might be a possible situation. And now, after applying for SWEEP, we're interested in putting in that drip irrigation system. So one thing to keep in mind, both of these tabs work independently of each other. So if you might have noticed, the before tab, we were in sandy loam soil, and we have crop type almond. The after tab goes back to the default. Make sure you select the correct soil type, crop type, as well as your baseline township range again. And then this is the section where this is your new agricultural practice for your water management system. So, like I said earlier, we are going to be putting in a drip irrigation system for this example. Now, this is a little bit clearer than it once was, so this should be more straightforward. So I go into the drip irrigation system that is replacing surface irrigation. This is the one that I was going to select based on the scenario that I have. Now, this water management tab, this is if you're planning on increasing your irrigation water management system. Now, this system is designed to indicate if you are going up a level. So let me give you an example of that. Let's just say on your farm that you have a flow meter and you have soil moisture gauges, but you're also interested in putting in an evapotranspiration system. Now, this would be defined as an irrigation water management system level 3. However, you previously had 2 of those pieces of equipment, so you will only be increasing it by 1 level. Just a piece of information to keep in mind that just goes up by 1. And it's that's how that works. Now, if you had nothing, if you were just doing flood irrigation system, you didn't have the flow meter, the evapotranspiration system, and the soil moisture gauge, and you were interested in installing all 3 of those things, that would be an increase to level 3, from essentially level 0 to 3. So now we want to know the estimated water savings. This is the information that we need to have to record it in FAAST. This is a piece of information you might want to write down, keep with you, because you might need it in multiple avenues. So we'll put this in FAAST. We also need this % water savings for the greenhouse gas calculator. So we have our baseline estimated before water use scenario, after with our new irrigation system, and then the annual savings. This is all in acre inches per acre. So our percentage savings is looking like a pretty good project. We're looking like we're going to save 30% of our water. So if you're interested, there's some background information and assumptions that are affiliated with this. I would encourage you to read through this. It'll give you some clarity about what's necessary. And now let's go into the ARB calculator. This is the greenhouse gas reduction calculator. It's a little bit more complicated than the other one. But again, I would go through the README tab first. I would stress the README section is important. So please do that. In this section, you're going to want to input your project name, that project ID, that's that FAAST PIN number. That's that number that will be affiliated with your project. Kyle will go into that when you get into the FAAST section, but you're going to need to put that information right here. Then put your contact name, phone number, email, date completed, and then your total irrigated project area. This is how many acres for the project, not your total land, not all of your farm, just the area that's affiliated with this project. And then also the amount of money that you're requesting from SWEET. So, okay, let's go into the input tab. This is essentially the dashboard that is for the greenhouse gas calculator developed by the Air Resources Board. And this is where I would put in my field, ranch name, pump fuel. So if I had an old diesel pump, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that I have my fuel type is diesel, and I would put in how many gallons I have used for the past growing season in diesel for that. Now, if you did electricity before, you're going to put in how many kilowatt hours affiliated with your energy bill. And we'll need that record submitted as well. So that's a piece of information submitted. Now we want to know the motor rated horsepower. So you have 25 horsepower pump. The operational hours, if you know that, please fill that out. And then the overall pump efficiency. This piece of information is found on your pump test. So that's a really important piece of information. We need that pump test to be submitted with the documents as well. So please keep that in mind that you'll put that overall pump efficiency right here. Now we also want to know the pump depth, discharge pressure, friction loss, and if you're interested in installing a VFD. So there's this pre-project section and this post-project section. This is what I currently have. So like I said, I have an old diesel pump. I'm interested in, say, putting in an electric pump. It's one thing I want to keep in mind and let you guys know. The discharge pressure is indicated in feet, and that's not PSI. Now, we do have a pressure conversion tab right here, the screen tab. This will be how you can convert that information into the correct metric that's required for this calculator. Another piece of information that I would just like to go over quickly is that, I'll go back to that calculator in a second. There is a definitions tab. It's on the very end, but this is a really important, useful tab. This will help you understand exactly what some of these questions are asking. You know, it's a further description of what is needed. One thing pointed out is the friction loss. There's a default friction value for a well pump, which is 10 feet, and then 5 feet for a booster pump. And then, you know, I would encourage you to look through this if you have any sort of questions about how this calculator works. It's very useful. Go back to the input. So now, like I mentioned prior, we're interested in putting in an electric pump in this scenario. So first of all, that last water savings calculator that I went through, I had an estimated water savings of 30%. This is where I would put in 30%. This is through my new irrigation system. I'm putting in that drip irrigation system and putting in, I think it was an irrigation water management system. Also, there's this renewable energy capacity. Now, I really want to stress that this is in kilowatts, not kilowatt hours. So this is the kilowatts of your system. If you put in kilowatt hours, it will look very off, and it won't be a correct metric for us. Now, in here, there's this drop-down menu. So now, like I mentioned prior, I'm going to be putting in electric pump. And then this is my fuel conversion that, or my emissions factor that was quantified by ARB. And there's that. Now, if I have multiple pumps, there are multiple tabs. So even if I have a booster pump that's not being changed, but it is affiliated with the project, I'm going to want to put that in there. And now, in which case, if I have a pump that's not being changed, I'll put it in the pre-project as well as the post-project, the same metrics that will calculate itself out. And then this calculator has a maximum of 5 pumps that are affiliated with the calculator. If you have more than 5 pumps that are affiliated with the project, you're going to want to use another calculator. You cannot add another tab to this calculator. So keep that in mind. You will then just add up the overall summary tab when you get these completed. So this summary tab is really where you're going to get the information that you're required to fill out in FAAST. You know, obviously I didn't have all the information to fill out the input section, but this will generate my annual greenhouse gas emission reduction in metric ton CO2 equivalency per year, and then various other pieces of information. Now, within FAAST, it does help you point out exactly what cell they're looking for in a particular field. So it'll say, for example, B17, if that's the field that's referenced in FAAST. So it should be fairly clear. Now, there is some underlying information. You can go ahead and read through this at your leisure. And there's also a document that is supporting the methodology that's included in this calculator, which is on our SWEEP webpage. Okay, so I'm going to go to the SWEEP webpage. Okay, so this is our State Water Efficiency and Enhancement Program webpage. This is currently we have a 2017 SWEEP grant application period that is now open. I would encourage you guys to go and look at this step-by-step guide for completing 2017 SWEEP application. This is a fairly straightforward guide that is pretty much the order of operations that's necessary in order to go through a SWEEP application. So, you know, you'll review the information, make sure you have a firm understanding of what's needed, establish your FAAST account, develop your project design, gather baseline water use and energy records, your pump specifications, and then complete the water savings calculator, and then the air resources or greenhouse gas calculator, and then you know, obviously complete the remaining information in the questionnaire tab and the remaining detail within that. But you'll submit that application to the FAAST web portal. So a little bit of pieces of information as well. Scroll down here. This is the 2017 Sweep Technical Assistance Workshop. I'm going to be posting a link here today that will have location-specific information on where these technical assistance workshops are going to be held. That will also have contact information. So I would really encourage anyone to attend one of these workshops. They'll give you a higher level of detail and assistance on the overall sweep application process. So this application info section, this is an important section. This is where you can download the Resources Board quantification methodology for sweep. This is it'll have the metrics that they use to calculate the overall method that's used for the calculator, for the greenhouse gas calculator. The sweep greenhouse gas emissions calculator, this is where you download it. If you have an old version, please download the newest version. The newest version has changed. Also, this is the water savings calculator that we went over prior. There is the budget template. Again, download the newest budget template. The total amount has changed. That's important. Here's a link to the irrigation training resources. These are some of the courses that you can take in order to fulfill the requirement for your irrigation training course. These are all online courses. This is just some. So if you want to look at those, I would encourage that. Right here is where you find the information on your critical, if you are in fact in a critically overdrafted groundwater basin. And then right here, of course, this is where you get to the FAAST submission tool. I would also like to add that this frequently asked questions section. This is where you're going to be able to answer some of the questions that you might have about the overall sweep process. We will be updating this, so keep that in mind. And then there's also this is the RFA, the request for grant application. This is the essentially mother document that is needed to review. I would definitely look that over, have a firm understanding of what's required here. If you want to know a little bit about some of the prior awards, these are current recipients in the past, I guess former recipients, I suppose, and they will have an outline of what is reported and some of the prior projects that have been submitted. If you want to kind of get a scope of what's been accepted in the past. And with that, I will transition to Kyle, and we'll show you the FAAST application.
Muted.
All right, thank you for your patience. So this is what the FAAST homepage looks like. Keep in mind it's hosted by the State Water Resources Control Board. So if you find yourself not on CDFA's website, that's okay, you're in the right place. I wanted to point out a few helpful things before we get going here. And also, for those that are familiar with the program and that have used FAAST in the past, this may be kind of old hat for you. So, you know, if you would like to get off the webinar, you may do so. In the left-hand column of the FAAST homepage, there's FAQs, how-to videos, and a user manual. So if you have any technical questions about the FAAST system, you may want to refer here before you reach out to the FAAST Help Desk. If you do need to reach out to the FAAST Help Desk, their information is down at the bottom of the web page here. Importantly, the Help Desk is staffed Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. So if you have a question that needs answering and you submit it on the weekend, they won't be able to get back to you until their regular work hours, so keep that in mind. So if you've used FAAST in the past, you can enter your username and password, and that can still work to access the 2017 sweep application. If you have forgotten your password, you can simply retrieve it by clicking Retrieve Password, but you'll need to know your username. If you've forgotten that as well, please contact the FAAST Help Desk. If you do not have an account, you'll need to create one. And creating an account is a two-step process. The first step of that process is organization search. So information about your organization may already be available in FAAST. So before creating a new organization, we ask for you to search for your own. However, if you are new to the FAAST system, it's likely you'll need to create your organization. On the Organization Details tab, just enter that relevant information. Please keep in mind that I know not all of you may have a federal tax ID number. If that's the case, just enter 99999 and then the last 4 digits of your social. We really want to bring that point to your attention because we don't want the full Social Security numbers, just the last 4 digits. So for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to select our organization here. All right, so on this page, you're going to enter information about the submitter, the individual that's completing this FAAST application. So you're going to enter your name. Complete all this. For the sake of this presentation, I'm not doing it, but make sure you include the most relevant up-to-date information. Choose a security answer. And create user account. All right, so a user confirmation a confirmation screen will pop up. Please save this for your records. Keep it in mind you'll use it to log in. Also, you should be emailed this confirmation information within about 15 minutes, although it often just happens automatically. And then use that information to log in. All right, now this brings you to the main menu. To start a new application, simply click on Start a New Application. If you start an application and you log out, you can access any existing applications by clicking on Active Applications. So here's the System Disclosure screen. So FAAST was designed and tested for use on a PC using Internet Explorer 6.0 or higher. So the use of a Mac or other web browsers may inhibit FAAST's ability to troubleshoot for you, to navigate the system, to upload attachments. So we highly recommend that you use Internet Explorer and the PC. Also, there's a system timer within FAAST. It times you out after 90 minutes of inactivity, so please keep that in mind when you work on this application. It's advised, and in the request for applications in an appendix, there's a printout of what the FAAST questionnaire looks like. So we advise that you use that and you can complete it in a Word document or some other format so you can save your information elsewhere and then use FAAST more like a kind of a copy and paste sort of tool. And disable any pop-up blocking software. Okay, for this, you're just going to select whether or not the applicant organization is the same as the submitting organization or if the applicant organization is different. This page has a list of the active requests for proposals in the FAAST system. FAAST uses a lot of different programs, so please make sure that you select the correct one. This next page just has information about the program that you selected, and click Continue to the application. All right, so this brings you to the meat of the application. This is where you're going to enter in all your information. I want to bring your attention to the proposal identification number at the top here. This is the number that you're going to want to use in your communications with us and your communications with FAAST. If you have questions that need addressing, please include that PIN number so we know what specific proposal that you're referencing. And then enter your project title, your project description, your latitude, longitude, watershed, and county. All right, so this is the project budget tab that Scott already went into during the presentation earlier. I just want to point out that the funds requested and the local cost match won't add up automatically. So if you're requesting the full amount, $100,000, and you have $25,000 in local cost match, the total budget won't calculate automatically, so you're going to have to do that on your own there. And on the funding tab, simply click Apply. All right, the Project Management tab has information about the individual submitting the application, as well as where you can enter the project director, who is the authorized representative for the applicant organization, and the project manager, the day-to-day contact. So please, it's advised that you include multiple people here rather than the same individual, just in case, if it's applicable for you, of course. Just in case we're having difficulty getting in contact with one, we have another fallback there. Please enter your legislative information on the Legislative Information tab if you have it. And the Contacts tab is simply another another place where you can enter contacts on the project that you would like to be communicated to regarding your application. And there's no limit here, so you just enter their information. Cooperating Entities tab. So this is where you're going to enter information about any organization that has, say, committed matching funds or in-kind, or the contractors, consultants that will be working as part of this proposed project. All right, so the questionnaire tab, this has all the questions that you're going to be answering as part of your application. And I want to point out that session timer that I discussed earlier. As of now, it's counting down from 90 minutes. To reset that, at the bottom of the questionnaire tab, click Save as Work in Progress. Now that's important. As you can see, it pops it back up to 90. And this has happened with applicants who work in FAAST for 89 minutes or so, and they step away from their computer to do something else, and then they lose their information that they've entered on this tab. And that's something we hate seeing. And when we do reach out to Water Board and the FAAST system, they're unable to recover that information. So please keep that in mind. And like I said, it's just good practice to save your information in a different format on your computer. So we already went through what we're requesting. This is just what it looks like in the FAAST system. There are drop-downs where you would enter a value. So for instance, has your agriculture operation received a previously funded SWEEP project? If yes, you're going to provide an answer. The APNs and the agreement number, where the projects were implemented. And I want to point out the character limits here. So each text box does have character limits. This one, for instance, 500, and that includes spaces or special characters, apostrophes, commas, stuff like that. So if you are completing your application in a Word document, keep that in mind, because you don't want to provide a 2,000 character answer for this text box here and then go to copy it over and you only have 1,000 characters. So please keep that in mind. And there's useful information in FAAST, useful links. So for instance, the census tract question. To identify your census tract, you can click on this link here. I should point out the project types section. So here's where you're going to select the project types that apply to your proposed projects. Don't just enter yes if it doesn't apply to your project for all of these. Sometimes applicants think that doing so will boost their chances of funding, but really we want to know just the project types that are relevant for your project. So you would select yes if this is relevant, and then you would provide an explanation as to why and how it does address that project type. And we have a number of reminders in red, so keep those in mind. Before proceeding with the application, applicants must complete the Irrigation Water Savings Assessment Tool and ARB Calculator tool, and there's links there to the tools, as well as on our website. So we do that because to answer the questions below it, you need to pull information from those tools. like I said, always select Save as Work in Progress. And I'm going to show you how to upload attachments next. So here's the Attachments tab. There's a pre-populated drop-down where you're going to select your attachment title. So if you're attaching the ARB GHD calculator tool, you select that. The attachment title pre-populates, so just leave that as is, and browse your computer and upload the attachment, and then select Attach Selected File. Once you do so, the attachments will populate under this section here. So make sure after you select Attach Selected File, it populates down in this section. So once you've attached all of your attachments, you may preview and submit your application. So this just gives you a screenshot of everything that you've completed thus far. So read through it, have someone else read through it. That's also a smart practice. You can miss something that someone might easily see that you missed that you don't. I obviously was a terrible applicant. I answered none of these, so do better than I did. So once you've read through it all and you're happy with your answers, you can run an application completion check. Keep in mind, as you can see, this only points out that I didn't attach the required attachments. So it can give off a false sense of security if you're relying on the application completion check to transfer any missing answers to your questions. So make sure that you thoroughly read this through to ensure that you've answered all your questions. Because I didn't attach the required attachments, a submission click box is not present on this page, but once you do attach all the required attachments, that box will appear, and then you'll be able to submit your application. And once you click Submit your application, you'll be shown a confirmation screen stating that your application was submitted, and you'll also receive an email to the addresses that you have on file. If you don't see that confirmation screen, if you don't get an email within about 15 minutes of submitting that application, you can contact FAAST and let them know and say, hey, I submitted my application at this time. I just want to get a confirmation screen, and then print that out and save that for your records.
Muted.
If you have questions, please email us, grants@cdfa.ca.gov, and we will post questions received today by March 14th on our website. And please continuously check back on our website for any updates, including the technical assistance workshops that we're going to be posting by the end of day. So thank you all very much for your attendance, and we look forward to receiving your applications.